Good morning, everybody. What's going on? This is Bevo.
And I'm Robert Rostick.
And thank you for tuning into this week's episode of Raising Unmanageables. This is episode 45, Robert Rostick.
Number 45. We're almost at a half a Benjamin.
A half a Benjamin?
Half a Benjamin.
You know, I like your little
Yeah.
little dad jokes.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get them.
Yep.
I think I'm starting to understand them.
Half a Benjamin. So 5 more will be a half a Benji.
Half of a Benji.
Yeah.
All right. I don't even know that. Could we call that phrase, half of a Benji? Everybody, before we get started into this episode, we ask you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook channel, and head over to Instagram as well, and make sure that you're engaging in conversation and asking us questions.
Also in SoundCloud, is that correct?
SoundCloud as well.
Yeah.
Yes, I always forget about SoundCloud just because it's the last thing I have to do in the editing process. So all the channels, like, share, subscribe. We very much so appreciate it. Robert Rostick.
Yes, sir.
Today, we were just talking about what work do you want to be known for?
Right. And I parlayed that into a style.
Or developing a style.
Developing a style. So we're going to see if we can tackle both of those and wrap it all into one.
All right. So let's just jump right into it with what is a style and how do you develop a style from your perspective?
Well, a style is something that gives you a very specific look about your work.
Okay.
Which is usually distinguishable from others.
Mm-hmm.
That could be used through the filters you use, the exposure, if you're doing photography, the exposure that you use, the type of light that you use, the type of post-processing, a certain type. If it's unique and a little different from the rest, it becomes your signature.
Okay.
As much as anything else. And that is what is defined as your style.
Okay. Now, those are very much so technical aspects. What about from a creative perspective? Let's say in film, right? A lot of directors use leading lines, let's say,
Sure, yeah.
right? Or a lot of directors shoot asymmetrically. Some directors may shoot asymmetrically, where a lot of that frame is set up on one side to kind of give tension.
Right, a lot of negative space.
A lot of negative space on the opposite side. Or directors like Wes Anderson shoots very symmetrical. Everything's right down the middle.
Right.
Does that go into that stylistic?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things that defines you. It's your signature that makes you stand apart from all the others.
So the way you shoot, the way you color grade, the way that your processing is, the creative lens through what you look through, all of those things fall into the style.
Sure. There's a guy, I can't think of his name, but he's a street photographer in New York. And one of the things he does, it's a signature style, is he runs up on people. I'm not sure if he's still living or not, but he runs up on people and sort of shocks them, and then he sticks a flash. Sticks, I was gonna say a finger in their face, but
say that one, brother.
But he what he does is sticks his camera in their face, and he uses this flash to highlight them.
Oh, okay.
And so it catches them off guard.
Off guard, yeah.
Yeah, and they don't know him, and he doesn't know them. But that is his signature style, to be able to run up to people.
Just a run and gun type,
absolutely.
And whatever expression he gets from that.
That's correct.
That subject at the time. Have you been developing the style, or have you been thinking about developing the style? Have you ever had a style?
Well, I mean, that's a great question, and I say that because I feel as though I don't have a style when it comes to shooting.
Okay.
I'm a generalist.
Okay.
I shoot just about anything, and I shoot it in a general manner in order to complete the job. I am not known for any particular type of way of shooting. Only that my shooting is consistent. That's pretty much how I'm known.
Okay. So let's keep talking about that. If you were to think about creating a style, how would you go in that process of the things that you like, taking all the things that you like and putting into a Robert Rostick photograph?
Well, now here's my take on it, is that a style is not something that you can just manufacture. It has to be a part of you. Okay. And your being, because a style is it is your signature.
Okay.
And as a signature, as we come along, even in our handwritten signature, that is developed, and you can't write like someone else and expect it to be your own. So it is one of those things where you have to define yourself, and the more you shoot, and the more you review what you shoot, the more you'll begin to see a style emerge, because a style is nothing more than an extension of who you are.
Okay, so just to keep doubling down on that, out of all the things that you shot, have you seen what has been emerging, what has been consistently things that you do, that you've been putting into place for your work?
Now, as a photographer, I mentioned earlier that I don't really have a style, because I'm pretty much a generalist, meaning that anyone comes to me, they want different things from me.
Okay.
And the only thing that's consistent is my exposure and my sharpness in the imagery.
Okay.
That's pretty general, that's pretty basic. But when it comes to my teaching, now there is a very developed style.
Okay.
It's a very when I say develop, I mean develop from who I am.
Right.
I don't necessarily teach in the conventional way.
Okay.
And
how so? What does that mean?
Meaning that I always meet people wherever they are in their learning process, and with that particular process that I put forth, I bring a lot of humor to the table.
Okay.
And in that humor, there's a lot of seriousness on the backside of that.
Gotcha.
Meaning that I like to break down walls of what's holding people back,
okay,
as far as learning. And once I break down those walls, or once I begin to see the walls coming down, I will then encourage them to get more serious about what it is that they're trying to say about who they are.
Okay.
So that's the approach I take, and as opposed to just teaching A, B, C, and D, and 1, 2, 3 equals, whatever that is.
So would you say that the way that you're teaching your students is helping them develop who they are and helping them develop a style, perhaps?
Oh, absolutely. It helps them to develop a style.
Okay.
Because
so but then just the second part of that question, and through that development, it is kind of lost my train of thought on that, but like you're helping them develop that style. And so is that part of the way that you're teaching? Is I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you arrive to that point where you start trying to pull those things out of them? How do they arrive to that point where they stop looking at the camera as this buffer between them and what they want to see, and start looking as an extension of what they're actually already seeing in the work they want to produce?
Well, one of the things that I provide students with is I am there to review their work.
Okay.
And oftentimes when we shoot something, the only thing that goes into our brain about how good or how bad the work is our own inner thoughts.
Okay.
And we go like, yeah, that must be good because it's good, because I did it, it's good. But when you have a second set of eyes, or third set of eyes, or someone else listening to it, then they tend to point out certain nuances that may or may not work in your favor. So as an instructor, that's one of the things that I do. I point out those nuances consistently and constantly. I point those things out, and so that you can then hone in on what's actually working for you, or working against you.
So you may or may not go down in history as the photographer that someone that has top of mind. However, from a teaching perspective, I definitely,
think, yeah, from a teaching perspective, people will they definitely know how I teach.
Right, okay. And are you cool with that too?
Oh, I'm very cool with that.
All right.
Life itself, I don't care how much you plan it, how much you set out to do a certain thing. Life has its twists and turns that are unforeseen to you, and you either roll with it or die with it. So I just roll with it.
Right.
And so when it comes to a style, a lot of times I see photographers, they'll throw on filters and say, "Oh, that's my style," and I go, BS, your shot is underexposed and the lighting sucks. But if that's what you want to be known for, and they do that because people overuse the word style.
Okay.
But as far as what you're known for, and that's where we started off in this topic, what you're known for is way more important, especially if you give that a proper term and a proper name. Meaning, what I mean by proper term and proper name is that you are consistent in what you do. Your work is delivered on time. You're constantly seeking perfection to better yourself. If you're known for that, that's great. People will work with you. But if you're known for being an a-hole, even though your work may be great, people tend to not want to work with you.
Right. Or they'll mess with you for a little while, and then they get the point after a while, and they realize that it's not worth the time and the effort that they have to put in to work with you, just to have that style.
Sure.
Or to have that person in the room who's known for a certain thing. So when we talk about what you're known for in this way of teaching, talk to me, just drill down a little bit more into what are some of those pieces about teaching that is a Robert Rostick stamp of teaching.
Oh, this is turned into a Robert Rostick interview, huh?
Yes.
Well, as far as instructing, one of the things that I tell all of the people that come in here for their sessions is that you will never ever be left alone.
Okay.
I will always be in your ear, your back pocket, and your back pocket holding your phone. Not to be an ass in your back pocket.
Yeah, you don't.
But and I'm a phone call away.
Okay.
And so when you're in a bind, I'm there.
Okay.
I'm there to help see you through it. Until you get on your own. Now, once you're on your own, and I feel as though you know what you're doing, and you know how to do whatever, and the confidence is not there, then I can't continue to hold your hand. I will push you off a cliff, and I have no qualms about doing so, because I know that you can fly.
At some point, they have to be able to fly on their own.
And it's not that they have to be able. They just need to know that they have to actually do it.
Right.
They need to know that they can do it. So I'll push you off the cliff. I have no problems doing that.
So that first part of your process is to let them know that, or to start where they are.
Yes, I start where they are.
So whatever their point of entry is, that's where you start from.
That's exactly where I start from.
And then you ease into letting them know that wherever they want to be, you're going to walk through the process.
I'm going to be right there alongside of them.
And even when you kick them out of the bird's nest, you're still there.
Even when I kick them out of the bird's nest, I'm down already at the bottom, ready to catch them.
Okay.
If they fall.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is that they don't know that. They won't know that. But I will kick them out of the nest. And once they begin to fly, then it's going to be, as my wife says as a teacher, I have now worked myself out of a job.
There you go.
And that's my job.
Yeah. To work yourself out of a job?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I've been becoming more comfortable with that position. It's been happening a little bit, so I'm understanding what that means actually now. And it sounds like a scary thing in the beginning, but you're actually positioning yourself for a bigger purpose at that point. If you can teach someone to the point where they don't need you to hold their hand on a day-to-day basis, but you're still there top of mind for other things that they may need help with. So I'm very much so understanding what that means now.
And the journey, one of the things that I do know as an instructor is that their journey never ends.
Right.
They are going to need me for something different in the future.
Right. And that's why you have to teach them past a point of not needing you, because if they never get to that point, then they're not growing, and they're not going to actually be able to pull you along with them with the things that they're actually moving towards. Right. So the goals that they set, if they're not reaching goals and resetting goals, then they're not. The work that you're doing is still in this little spot where it's not growth at that point.
So. I'm on this new medicine.
What's the medicine? Water?
No.
Okay. I know you've been having
and it's the throat
situation. Take your time.
But the thing about it is that it's actually helping me.
It is helping?
Yeah, even though it's taking away my voice, it's actually helping, because I don't have the hiccups as much as I normally do.
Well, I am glad that it's helping, because that is one of my, I think about it all the time with regard to your voice, and is it created damage or not with regard to overall damage or permanent damage.
I certainly hope not.
I hope not either.
But on the second side of that now, I still am a photographer. That is my number one key thing.
Right. So that's what I wanted to ask about, right, is how do you get comfortable working in a space where you didn't automatically start out? So you started out as a photographer.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you realized that, hey, I'm actually, and maybe I'm probably a better teacher than I am a photographer, but you're a really good photographer, or just as good as a teacher as a photographer. Not to take away from the photographer thing,
right?
But there's people who are great photographers,
absolutely,
who suck at breaking down information processes and then teaching it back to other people.
Correct.
So at what point do you get comfortable with, hey, you know what, I'm a photographer, this is how I started my journey, but I think how I'm going to end up is teaching people how to become photographers for themselves. How do you get used to that or get comfortable with that shift of not, is it a shift in not reaching a goal, or just a different type of understanding? That's what I'm trying to ask.
You know, one of the things I credit Creative Circus in Atlanta with is giving me the opportunity to do both.
Okay.
Here's what I mean. As a photographer, that's your sole purpose, your thought. I mean, and everything centers around photography, getting the shot done. But at the same time, you have other hobbies that you like. And I had taught a little bit, you know, here and there. But the Creative Circus, one of the things they did was they said, okay, if you're going to teach here, you have to be a working photographer. You have to be working in your field.
Right.
And that's the part that actually kept me being a photographer over just switching over to being a teacher.
Okay.
And I love that concept. Being able to work and then at the same time work in photography, at the same time teach others about how to do the same thing. So that is how I balance the two. I always have to stay ahead of my students. I am not ever going to teach them what's in the past unless they're coming to me for art history.
Yeah, or foundations.
Right. Yeah. But I'm going to teach them, as I mentioned, wherever they are to where they want to go. And once they start taking off on their own, they're going to come back for more history about photography. Once they have learned the idea and ideals about making an image, then they want to know how they got there. And that's where I go back and talk about history.
Okay. Because I suspect there's a lot of people that are holding on to pieces of themselves because that's how they started the journey, right? That's not how they came in, so they don't want to make a shift, because if I make this shift, if I'm a basketball player, if I'm a football player, if I'm a photographer, and I make this shift, then I'm starting over and having to do something else. So I find it really interesting, like, just working in that space and getting more comfortable with putting in the work to get more comfortable with other things that you may be good at doing and may be interested in doing. So yeah, I working towards the work that you want to be known for.
Oh, absolutely.
I think it's super
you know,
important.
when it all boils down, people will know me at the end. They'll know me as an instructor. That's what they'll know me for. But I am going to know myself by the work that I produce as a photographer, and a photographer who shot this particular way, and produced this particular type of work over this certain amount of time.
Okay.
And I know that, because that's what I'm working toward. But to make a living, I enjoy teaching. I mean, I enjoy the hell out of it. I'm not gonna lie about it, and I'm damn good at it.
I think if we're really serving our clients and our customers properly anyway, a lot of us are teaching.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
we're teaching them how to, we're informing them about what it is that they're buying into and how to make those decisions for themselves. We might not always see ourselves as teachers in that the day in, the day out. But some part of what I think we have to do as entrepreneurs is still be teaching. So whether or not you're a teacher or not, you're still informing your clients and your customers on what it is that you need from them to be able to operate.
How is it that you have developed a style? I mean, how does that come back with what you do with other managers?
So I think my style is, as a designer, again, I think I started out much like you, right? As a photographer, where my style has ended up, it started out very general. And then the work that I like to do a lot of the times is more kind of classic looking work, right? So I like for things that will last for a long time. I don't like to follow trends at all.
Yeah.
So I like for things to be graphic and to kind of look like they can stick around for a while. But then the funny thing happened is doing a lot of the work that I'm doing now, right? Which is kind of teaching.
Right.
And the word that I don't like to use is coaching. And the other word that's always been weird to me is consulting. And but where I find joy in that work is I get to be able to move in different aspects of being a creative, and I get to think about problems at the core with regard to listening to the client, listening to what their problems are, and then helping them, whether it's on the fly, solve that problem, or if it's over time, solve that problem. And that problem usually is, what is the work that they're looking to do? What is the work that they want to be known for? And how to create a storyline around it. And then what are the best opportunities for us to push it out into the open?
Let me go back to those two terms that you mentioned, coaching and consulting.
Sure.
Yeah, tell me why those words bother you.
Well,
I mean, because if one of the things, not to cut you off right there, but which I just did,
right.
But one of the things I know of is that if there's something that's hampering your progress because people say certain things, then that could be a problem. So coaching and consulting, what do you have a problem with?
All right, so quick deviation. The one thing that hampers my progress, I think the most, is when other people identify me as just the logo guy or this person, you know what I mean? So I think that dampens down my progress more than anything. But I'm getting used to coaching and consulting. The only reason that I kind of put them to the back burner before was because in this coaching realm, you don't have to, but a lot of like the good coaches have certificates, and they've gone and taken classes and learned these different modules, with regard to teaching people how to come from 0 to 100, right? To go from A to Z. They've learned different processes and different techniques. I haven't learned any of those processes. All of the things I do from a coaching perspective is all just intuition with regard to paying attention, listening to the client, and then I go and do research if I'm ever met with something that I don't already know about, right? So I have no problem saying, hey, I'll find out for you, and we could talk about it in our next meeting.
Correct.
So from a coaching standpoint, I'm getting better at that. I'm getting used to being in that world. And the only reason I don't say, hey, I'm a coach in this regard, because I haven't been certified on this thing. Right?
That qualification part of it. Yeah,
right.
I understand
so
that.
I let the people who have been, I let them call themselves that, because that they put in the work to do that.
Correct.
From a consultant standpoint, I always looked at a consultant as that Lone Ranger type person that comes in and fixes all the problems and walks out with a big paycheck at the end of it. Right. And I never really understood how to work in that space until recently. So again, that's another term I'm getting used to, because I didn't really understand how to work in the consultant space, especially from the point where I'm still doing specific work, right? I don't consider me behind my computer designing the logo as the consultant, right?
All right.
I consider the person sitting behind their computer designing the logo the doer or the freelancer perspective. The consultant is the one who's going to come in and understand who all needs to be put in place,
Right.
and then go and find those people to be put in place, right? So it was just a level of understanding for me, and being comfortable with those terms for myself. And as I'm moving from wanting to do less of the day-to-day graphic design work, I get more comfortable with having conversations and returning back work. Sometimes that seems more ethereal and less tangible. A logo is tangible at the end of the day. I can email it to you, and it can present itself as a physical thing on a shirt or a hat or on a business card. But coming in and offering someone a process that walks them through steps through that they're not really paying attention to on a day-to-day basis towards their goal, felt to me in the beginning like I wasn't doing work, right? But I'm understanding that it is work.
So, and back to the style portion of it, you mentioned something about being classical, being a person that wants things to stick around for a while, not be trendy. And if I had to define Bevo and Unmanageables and the work that you do, in one sentence, what would that sentence be?
The me and Unmanageables in the work that I do?
Yeah, in a style form.
In a stylistic form. In the environment, in the space that I want to create, I always want people to be able to come into this space, much like they come into your space, at whatever level they are, and then set goals towards what their future their future wants to look like, or they want their future to look like, and then we just work towards going after those goals. So it's pretty simple from that standpoint. I don't have like any big words to use for it. I just want to help people go from point A to point B and achieve all the goals in between.
And even though they take some turns and have maybe some curves, you're still goal oriented.
Absolutely. And I walk with them through the process as well. I don't like to set people off on this trail and say, hey, I'll be over here, doing my own thing. When we start that relationship together, I'm in the trenches with them. I like, especially in the beginning, I like to make sure that I'm understanding who they are, and they're understanding how I'm working with them and how to work with me. And
that is something you're comfortable with doing.
That is something I'm very comfortable with doing.
And that's pretty much just what a style is. It's defining you and your comfort level, and producing the best work you can in that arena.
Right. And the only other caveat to that is intuition. I rely heavily on intuition. I do all the research I need to do, but a lot of the discussions I have, a lot of the problem solving skills that I have are based around feeling what they're telling me, and then just knowing where they need to be from that position.
And so you're not just a module. You're a customized person for the goals that your clients are trying to reach.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's important to be able to customize, especially in small business. In big business, you're able to identify a larger thing and work with and kind of whitewash all of your clients, right? Because you're going to put the same amount of time towards all those clients. But when you're in a small arena, you have to be able to customize because they're coming at you from different points of entry.
Right.
So with all that being said, that's what I would like to be known for, is a person that can take people from A to B, A to Z, and actually work through all those things to get their dreams, their goals accomplished.
And I think both of us will do it, both of us do it in somewhat of an unconventional manner.
Absolutely.
And I guess that's what makes us
unmanageable every day, right?
Every single day.
So with that being said, as we're counting down, Robert Rostick, please take us out of here.
I just wanted you guys to know that utilize our services. We both are photographers, instructors, designers, the whole gamut. But more than anything, We want you to be like us by taking a moment out of your day to be unmanageable.
And with that being said, I'm Bevo.
And I'm Robert Rostick.
And thank everybody for tuning in to this week's episode of Raising Unmanageables, episode 45. We appreciate you guys very much. Peace.